if anything was really to happen at the school, like a shooting, that he probably was the only one with enough hate to do so. My first interaction happened around August 13th of 2016. Messages on Instagram saying to stay away from his ex and stop talking to his ex. At first I didn't answer back at all. We went on one date, but we were introduced through our mutual friend a week or two after school had started in 2016, and he had come up to me to apologize for the messages that he had sent. I accepted his apology, and everything was cool. Later, he got upset again, and I didn't know why. He started threatening me again, same verbal messages and everything. I was confused. Like, I thought we had made up. There's no reason for us to even argue about this anymore. After that, I had gone to the office and reported to security that I had, with I think 3 of my friends, that I had been getting these messages and that he had been threatening us. They say they take care of it and that they calm him down to talk about it, but I don't know. I don't know why he came up behind me and decided to fight me that day. He just did. He threw a water bottle at me. I think it hit my left leg and went between my legs after that. And then I turned around and he came and hit me in the left arm. After that, I proceeded to slam him to the ground and punch him in self-defense. And I was tired of all the things he's been doing to me and my friends. We were both suspended. I was suspended for a day. He was suspended for 2. After that, he kept his distance from me. But from time to time during lunch, he would flip me off from across the courtyard. I still got threatening messages from him. I think if I was able to go back, I would have gone and reported him to the police and told my mother about it at the time.
Whose child attended Stoneman Douglas High School. She knew the alleged gunman, Nikolas Cruz. Thank you so much for having the courage to come and talk to us this morning. You knew Nikolas Cruz. How did you know him?
My oldest daughter, Ashley, graduated from Stoneman Douglas.
Okay.
When they were younger, she was associated with him, and I actually drove him to school a few times.
And describe his persona.
There were reports of him throwing chairs in the classroom, even when he was in class with my daughter. The teachers, had complaints, sent emails throughout the school. So he definitely seemed like he had some problems.
Was your daughter frightened of him?
No, I feel it's a social problem. We need to be more proactive in the community, from parent to teacher to faculty to community. We just need to take more proactive roles in our children's lives. It's important.
Joining us now is Cruz's former Spanish teacher, Alicia Blond, as well as Ethan, who has been friends with him on and off since the 6th grade. Alicia, Cruz was diagnosed with emotional and behavioral disorders. Did you see any of this when you had him as a student?
He was a quiet boy. His work was erratic. Sometimes he would turn in assignments, sometimes he would not. I tried to approach him several times. What's going on? Why are you turning in your work? Partially because I knew he could do it. He was a smart boy. But I didn't really witness anything about, and I've been at that school for 18 years, most of my career. I've taught students that I have seen throughout those years that have had a lot of issues that I would classify. Nick was not one of them. Mm-hmm. I think he had hate. I think he disliked a lot of people. And I believe that this is what this crime was about. This crime was not about a young man who was mentally, and I apologize because I am not a therapist or a psychologist, but I believe that this was more of a crime rather than a crime of a young man that was disturbed.
You said that you've known him on and off since the 6th grade, and that there was a time that you saw something turn.
When I first met him, he was very talkative to me. He was very friendly, and I considered him as just one of my normal classmates. I think around 6th grade, his father had passed away, and he became very, very quiet in class. I believe everyone thought that he was just in his grievance. But after a while, he fell into a wrong crowd of troublemaking people, and they really encouraged and motivated him to do troublemaking stuff, as in you heard his stories how he walked in front of a car, he started screaming at the person, he would throw he'd bother the teacher in any way. Like, for example, he'd throw a pencil at her, anything like that, they would encourage him to do it. And I think I saw that as a way he really wanted to fit back in with everyone. And eventually, I believe that he just became what people would call him weird.
Survivor story, a student who was just released from the hospital.
Local 10's Terrell Fournier is live in Parkland with a riveting account of what happened. Terrell.
Well, this shooting survivor that you are about to meet was familiar with the accused shooter, Nikolas Cruz. They served on the school's JROTC program, but she says that there are two images that will forever be ingrained in her mind, and that is one, the sight of that shooter firing indiscriminately across that classroom, and two, watching her two close friends get shot and die.
There's like 4 or 5 sites where there's like shrapnel lodged into my legs.
Bullets hit Samantha Fuentes' legs, and fragments are still stuck in her head.
And I also have an entrance wound in my face that is from shrapnel that is lodged behind my eyeball.
The injuries would mean days in the hospital for the 17-year-old high school senior who barely made it out alive.
Only just a centimeter over or an inch over from where I was sitting could have fatally ended my life.
Samantha was on the first floor in room 1214 at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Senior High last week when she heard those gunshots, then the fire alarm, and saw the shooter, who cops have since identified as 19-year-old Nikolas Cruz.
He never entered the classroom. He shoved his barrel through the window of the glass and started spraying the room. When the shooting stopped, I looked up and I looked at the window, and he was standing there just looking in. He had absolutely no facial expression whatsoever.
In those chaotic moments, two friends, Helena Ramsey and Nicholas Dorette, both 17, would be fatally shot.
The whole room was sprayed in bullets, and I had one single balloon that I bought that day for my mom, and it didn't pop.
You can see that very balloon in the distance on this cell phone video that was recorded by a classmate, a life-changing experience that has pushed Samantha to join the fight for tougher gun control legislation.
And you opened your home to Cruz for nearly 3 months.
Yes, sir.
And you tried to get him counseling. And what was he like in your home?
Nothing like they portray on television or in the media. In the
everything
newspapers.
everybody seems to know, we didn't know. We had rules, and he followed every rule to the T.
And before he moved into your home, how well did you know him?
I had met him a couple times before. He had spent the night at the house, and he was very polite. He seemed normal.
And Kimberly, can you take us back to that day? Was there anything unusual, out of the normal with his behavior before that day?
No. The only thing that was maybe different was that he didn't go to school. He usually drives him to school with him in the morning. He didn't go that particular morning, which sometimes happens. And
he said he didn't go to school on Valentine's Day.
Okay.
That's what he told us.
But when did you realize what he had done?
After the SWAT team called me and asked if I knew where my son Nikolas was. And I said, he's not my son, but I don't know where he's at. And at that point, I got in touch with my son, who was fleeing the scene at that point. And a description came out, and we put 2 and 2 together, me and my son, and we figured out what was happening.
And what was going through your mind when this happened? Did you both find out at the same time?
No, she was home sleeping. And at that point, I was panic-stricken for her safety, so I called the SWAT officer back to get the police back to my home to check on her.
And after all this happened, at one point, you did get a chance to see Nikolas. And what did you say to him? Did he speak back to you? Did he say anything back?
It was at the police station when they were going past us, and I went after him. I really wanted to strangle him more than anything, and everything I wanted to say, I tried to reserve myself. I said, "Really, Nick? Really?" Yelled at him, and he mumbled something, but I didn't hear it. And he said he was sorry.
He said he was sorry,
but I didn't hear that. I was just furious and heartbroken, absolutely just heartbroken, devastated. I still can't process it, what he's done, because this wasn't the person that we knew, not at all.
And he was friends with your son.
Yes, sir.
Right.
How's your son holding up?
He's angry. He's angry. He's betrayed. He's upset.
Furious.
He was at that school too, and he had friends at that school.
And he was at school that day, James. And I know Nikolas texted your son.
Yes, sir.
What were those texts like?
He told my son he was going to the movies, And he said he had something to tell him, and my son pressed him, what is it? What is it? He goes, nothing bad, bro. And he goes, and that was it. And then he said he was going to the movies, and then the last text my son got was, yo, and that was it. And that was about 2:18, I believe.
Do you have any idea why you think he texted your son?
No idea. No idea.
And there have been so many reports about Nikolas's alleged social media use and about guns and posting of guns, about killing small animals. Did you know anything about any of that?
No, sir. We knew he had one Instagram account that my son had, and I guess that would be the normal one. These other Instagram accounts that he had, we had no idea about. My son had no idea about. As far as the animal killings, he never did anything like that at our house. We have animals, and he loved our animals loved him.
And you were aware that he had weapons when he moved into your home?
Absolutely.
And where were they kept?
Before he moved in, one of the stipulations is he had to get a gun safe. And we got a gun safe on the way back from Lantana from moving his stuff to our house.
And he didn't have free access to this gun safe?
No. I thought I had the only key to the gun safe.
And had he ever asked you beforehand to use a gun, to take it out of the safe?
He asked twice. Once I said yes because he wanted to clean it. And I don't know which gun he wanted to clean, but he said he wanted to clean a gun. I said okay, and another time he asked, and I told him no. It wasn't a good time.
And why did you tell him no?
I don't know what the situation was in the house. It wasn't a good time. I don't know, we were getting ready to leave or getting ready to sit down for dinner or something, but it wasn't a good time.
And judging from any past interaction with him, it seemed like you had no problem with him having a weapon.
No, not at all. He followed the rules.
He followed the rules.
He followed the rules.
They weren't allowed to be out if we weren't home or one of us wasn't home. And he knew that, and to our knowledge, he never had them out. And as far as the animals goes, I am very much an animal person. Anybody who knows me knows that. There's no way I'd let anybody in my house if I thought he was torturing animals at all. And if we'd known anything about the Instagram accounts, or I don't even know how to use Instagram, I'm a little old school, but if we had known anything about that, he wouldn't have even been in our home. That wouldn't even been an option.
Like disappointing, and it's like really sad to know like someone that you knew like did something like so bad to like people.
Only on 6, an internet pen pal to the Parkland school shooter breaking her silence tonight, speaking out about her relationship with Nikolas Cruz in the months leading up to the deadly rampage. Now, the two met online and developed a friendship, talking on Instagram and over the phone, but she says that she never would have imagined that he would be capable of such carnage. NBC6 reporter Stephanie Bertini is live in the newsroom tonight with what the teen and her mother had to say about it all. Stephanie.
Jawad, he's the face behind the mass shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. His pictures on Instagram allowed him to make a connection with a girl in Washington state who detectives learned he talked to often in the months before the massacre.
Really sad to know like someone that you knew like did something like so bad to like people.
Although she never met him in person, Mia Hoff considered Nikolas Cruz a friend.
When I found all of this out, I was like crying so much because like I cared for him a lot, and I didn't know that he would ever do that, and I didn't know that he would hurt someone. I thought he was a really like nice person. I was really depressed.
Communicating on Instagram turned into phone calls and texts. She says he mentioned school and talked about being bullied.
He said that people used to beat him up.
She says Cruz was having a hard time.
He said he wanted to overdose and that he wanted to cut himself, which was like big because I was going through a lot, he was going through a lot, and we talked about it.
Not until the detective called. I didn't believe it until he told me that Mia's phone number was one of the last numbers that Nick had dialed besides his family.
We asked Mia Hoff if she remembers the last time she talked to Cruz.
It was like a week before this whole thing happened. All I can remember is that he said that he loved me, and then we never talked after that.
It scared me to know that she could be talking to someone that could do that.
The teen says she has not been in contact with Cruz behind bars.
Rosa, good evening to you. This woman who lived across the street from Nikolas Cruz, their children played together. Did they have any indication he would do something like this?
Well, you know, she says that she started seeing the signs, Dawn, very early on. She says that Cruz started killing toads in her front yard. Then he started using his BB gun to shoot at squirrels and rabbits and other small animals. He would never look at her in the eye. He was very destructive. He'd destroy property. But she says that it was until she saw him over her dog Max as the dog was convulsing and foaming at the mouth. But Cruz had this weird, eerie look in his eyes, almost wild, she described it, that she knew that he had a darker side.
What is going through your mind?
That he was pure evil, that I had to keep my kids away from him. Enough where I was actually going to move when he turned 18. I did not want to live down the street from him, knowing he was going to own a gun. I wanted to move. But shortly before he turned 18, they moved. So I kind of feel like I dodged a bullet with him. Once he moved, I didn't have contact. But my husband and I both knew that it was not over, that we would eventually see him one day on the news, wearing an orange jumpsuit, being charged with murder. We both knew it. I didn't know exactly how it would happen or how soon it would happen, but I had no doubt in my mind that it would happen.
That's chilling.
It is.
And Dawn, she says that she just knew. She can't explain it, but she just knew that he would eventually end up killing people.
Oh my gosh. So, Rosa, Joelle made a call to 911 in 2016 expressing concern to authorities about Cruz's violent tendencies. Nothing ended up being done. Why was that? And tell us more about this call.
You know, we had heard about the call, Dawn, but until now, until we talked to her, is that we know more of these chilling details. She says that she was in her kitchen. Her son walked in, showing her a post that Cruz had posted on Instagram showing an AR-15 style rifle, and Cruz saying that he couldn't wait to turn 18 so that he could purchase this gun. And then later, another post saying that he wanted to shoot up a school. Well, that's when this woman said she picked up the phone and called 911.
In hindsight, do you wish that deputy would have listened to your plea?
Well, I think he listened, but I felt at the time that he couldn't do anything because what he explained was that it was not an immediate threat, and he was only 17 at the time, so he didn't own a gun. He basically told me that there was nothing he could do unless he carried out a threat, unless something happened.
In this case, unless he shot a school, because that's what you were talking about.
Basically, yes, yes. And after he left, I just felt completely helpless and frustrated. I didn't know where else to turn. You know, I told my husband that I wanted to move. I did not want to stay in this house when Nikolas turned 18. I did not want to be here. I was really afraid for my family, for my animals, for myself.
So take us through that phone call. What happens when you decide to pick up the phone and call 911?
Well, it was building up to that point. He had posted a picture of a gun that he wanted to buy with a caption that read he couldn't wait to turn 18 so he could buy this gun. And later he posted something else about wanting to shoot up his school. So I talked to people about it, and I finally came to the decision to call 911.
And Dawn, she says that when she heard about the shooting at Douglas Stoneman High School, she says that she immediately knew that it was Nikolas Cruz. Before authorities released the name, she said that she knew that it was him.
Part of our conversation. So everyone started saying it was Nikolas Cruz. I was not surprised. It really wasn't. I'd see him sometimes, and he was never doing, like, one time he stole something out of my neighbor's garage. The other time he was throwing coconuts at the houses. He's just not a good kid. How do you go back to school now?
I don't know if I can. I really don't. That
image is not going to be able to leave my head. It's horrific. It's really horrific. Seeing two children, 15 or 16 years old, laying down like that, it's insane. There's no way to describe it.
Adam told me he was on a first-floor classroom. A young girl ripped open the door and dove into his classroom. He said, "I saw a bullet hole in her leg. She was bleeding profusely. Someone put a tourniquet on her. He hopes that she's all right. We hope, of course, that she is."
He got kicked out of school last year. A lot of people, he always had guns on him and stuff like that. So it was, huh? I'm with Bruno. I'm with Bruno. Call her, talk to her, please.
So he was a kid kicked out of school?
I gotta go. He was a kid kicked out of school. He was a little bit of a troubled kid, but everyone thought, you know, he always had jokes and stuff like that. It was a lot of like crazy stuff that he did, just not right for school. He got kicked out of school multiple times for this kind of stuff.
Was he known to carry guns or what?
He carried multiple guns. He showed me his guns. I was kicked out of school myself, and I saw what guns he had. He showed me personally, and not a lot of times the kids wouldn't pick on him for that kind of stuff because they knew what could go on or was scared at the time.
So what, did he come onto campus?
I guess so. That's what the word is. My mother just called me a few seconds ago to tell me that it was Nikolas Cruz.
How do they know that?
She's watching the news currently.
All right, and was he a junior, senior when he got kicked out?
When he got kicked out, I believe he was a junior, I could say. I'm not sure.
Did you
That
ever
was a
expect
sophomore.
this?
Honestly, a lot of people were saying that it was going to be him, stuff like that. We threw a lot of kids threw jokes around like that, saying that he was going to be the one to scoot up the school. But it turns out, you know, everyone predicted it. That's crazy.
Wow, he must have come onto campus then, right?
Yeah, he was on the 3rd floor. He knows the school layout. He knows where everyone would be at as of right now. He's been in his fire drills. He's prepared for this stuff.
I came back to my classroom and I knocked on the door, and the fire alarm went off, and principal came on the speaker and just said, "Everyone needs to evacuate right now." So that's what we did. As I was going down the stairs, I heard a couple shots fired. Everyone was freaking out, saying that it was a gun. And as we were walking, the whole class together, I actually was speaking to the suspect, Nikolas Cruz. And as I was speaking to him, he seemed very, I don't know what the word I want to say is, but he was trouble in middle school, so I kind of joked to him about it and said, "I'm surprised you weren't the one who did it." And he just gave me a huh. So that's really what happened.
You were walking down the hall. He had already fired at that time.
Yes, sir, with him.
Weren't you scared?
In the moment I wasn't, because there was definitely another shooter involved, but
Oh, you think he was not the only one?
no, definitely not.
Why do you say that?
Because when shots were fired, I saw him after the fact. So, and the shots were coming from the other part of the building. So there definitely had to be 2 shooters involved, I believe.
That's the first I've heard of that. Did you see any other students who were wounded?
No, sir.
I've known him since 6th grade, and I just want to start off that I'm not rationalizing or justifying what he did. It was completely wrong and disgusting. But from what I've known him since 6th grade, he is probably one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. He was incredibly nice and so sweet, and when I first talked to him in class, you know, he talked to me as any normal friend would. And eventually, like, his father had passed away, and ever since then, like, he was became really quiet, more reserved in class. Nothing unusual, like no unusual behavior, just reserved. As a friend, I should have noticed like the change in him. And I didn't see him until my last year in junior year again, where he came up and greeted me, and we greeted each other, and we walked down the hallways together. We talked to each other as friends. I asked him like how's life and everything like that. He said it was all right, and everything seemed like perfectly normal. And I saw him at the Dollar Tree where he works next to Magnolia, and I talked to him. He was my cashier, and he said that, you know, he's building money for his family, and he said he might have a future going. I just can't wrap my head around it because I never saw any flags, anything that ever occurred to me. I just want to know that to everyone that he wasn't this bad person like the whole time. He's just this good person not good, but this great friend that I knew, and that I always would talk to him, and I tried to be there for him. But as of right now, like, I just feel that like he had no one to go to at one point to turn to after whatever he's going through, and that's what caused all this. I just should have been there more for him. I don't know how to really feel about it, but other than that, like everyone in the community should have been there for him. We all should have been there for him, and he had no one to go to. And I feel sorry for him, but I mostly feel sorry for the victims of what happened. I'm not sure what happened to him. Just the Nick I knew like before all this, like he was a nice person to me, and that's how I remember him.
He only got expelled. They didn't even like put him into a hospital. Nothing for like a mental health. Nothing. Like something needs to be taken care of.
Alicia, you taught this man.
Yes, I did.
Nikolas Cruz, probably about 4 years ago, so he would have been.
He was a sophomore.
10th grade, probably. Yes. What do you know of him?
I remember him being a very quiet student. He has a Hispanic background. I remember that he didn't really like to speak Spanish too much. I think there was some pride issue there. He didn't feel comfortable in his own skin, in his own culture. He was very quiet. He sometimes turned in assignments, sometimes not. I tried to, break him a little bit and try to get into him a little bit and ask him questions and, hey, what's going on with you? I believe he was in JROTC at the time. Right. So sometimes he would come in uniform. And I communicated a couple of times with the JROTC professor and said, hey, what's going on with this kid? I know, that the members of JROTC are usually, they're very disciplined students. And so him being in JROTC, exactly, it was not exactly very, very out of character. And I remember him physically. Small in stature. A nice-looking kid, but very quiet.
Did you know him?
I used to see him around school all the time. He was just a really strange kid. Actually, they wouldn't let him bring a backpack to school. He had to either bring a paper bag, like a Ziploc bag, and I'd always see him. He'd always wear like bandanas all around his face. He'd carry a folder, and he just walked in the weirdest way. He'd stare at you. I actually got, like last year, I got in an argument with him when we bumped into each other, and he like pushed me, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he just like storms off. He's a really strange kid. I always used to say like, "Wow, he just looks like no good."
Who claims he was in the infirmary with Cruz, reached out to News Channel 5 to tell us what he noticed about the teenager. Jail records confirm that man and Cruz were in the infirmary at the same time. News Channel 5's Tori Dunnan has the story you'll see only on 5.
I don't know. I guess I feel like strongly about this situation.
Andrew Bryant spent 9 days in the Broward County Jail on drug-related charges. 3 of those days, Bryant spent watching suspected Parkland shooter Nikolas Cruz in the jail infirmary.
So where were you in comparison to where he was?
So if I go to my window and I could look right where his cell was.
Bryant could see Cruz.
I don't know. I don't think he was looking at anybody, just looking down and just laying down looking at the roof.
Hear Cruz.
I think he was just scared, to be honest.
Form his own opinion of Cruz.
I think he felt intimidated by being in jail, and he probably knew everyone had a problem with him.
Bryant's observations match up with those recorded by deputies each day. They check on him every 15 minutes. Cruz sleeps a lot, eats infrequently, makes little eye contact with anyone, often sits with a blank stare, appears to be in thought.
He was just lost in his mind.
The deputies write Cruz is cooperative, logical, and coherent. One night he requested to read a Bible. We know that one occasion when he met with his attorney, he was, quote, responsive to interview, shaking his head, nodding or agreeing, forward or engaging with the conversation.
Were people talking about the fact that he was in jail, other inmates and stuff?
Yeah, everybody in there was talking about it. It was a big thing. Yeah, the deputies would talk about it, people were talking about it, everybody was talking about it.
So I asked Bryant why he reached out to News Channel 5. His answer, it's personal.
See, I just hope he doesn't plead insanity or or he gets off or anything, because they're trying to say he's crazy or anything, because in my opinion, I don't think he's crazy. And I think he deserves whatever's coming to him.
Good morning, George. Yet another person here who says they sounded the alarm about Nikolas Cruz. The student we spoke with says that he would threaten them through text and through social media, but when they first met, she says that there was actually nothing out of the ordinary. Ariana Lopez says her one-time friendship with former classmate and Florida shooting suspect Nikolas Cruz started out as any normal teenage friendship does.
He would tell me about his mom and his brother.
But she says she soon saw traits she describes as disturbing emerge.
He used to sell knives out of his lunchbox, which I thought was like insane because you can't have knives. This is a school. He's like, hey guys, want some knives?
As for those haunting social media posts,
he would talk about how he sympathized with Syrian terrorists and that people who oppose them should be killed. He posted pictures of like 15 or more firearms just on his bed. Like this was normal. Like you could even see a hamper in the background. That's how how ordinary this was to him. He talked about killing our parents, our friends, boyfriends, and girlfriends.
Lopez says Cruz would follow her after school. She says she and her friends reported their concerns to school officials multiple times between 2016 and 2017. Broward County Schools has not yet responded to ABC News when asked about her claims. ABC News has learned that Douglas High School disciplined Cruz 25 times, but he remained on campus. Lopez telling ABC the reason behind this fight, seen in this video allegedly showing Cruz in a white shirt first obtained by ABC affiliate WPLG, was over a girl Cruz briefly dated.
He would hit her, he would threaten her family and her friends for talking to other guys.
Overnight, a newly released investigators report from the Florida Department of Children and Families, filed just days after that 2016 fight, noted Cruz's behavior changes due to a recent breakup. The investigators think Cruz talked about wanting to purchase a gun and feeling depressed.
Does he know where the shooter is? We don't know, but we're entering the building.
We asked Lopez about that day last week when 17 of her classmates and teachers were killed in a barrage of bullets. She sought refuge, hiding in a closet.
I was thinking about why he could have done this. Because Nick was an avid hunter, I thought about it from like a hunter's perspective. The freshman building is very difficult to get out of. And when you think about it from the way that a hunter might have, which was the way that Nick thought about a lot of things, that was an easy target.
She says she felt little shock when she learned the identity of the shooter.
I knew it. We all did. Everybody who knew him, we knew it. He was the only person that could, even before they announced that he was the shooter, we all knew it was Nick. He was the only person that we could think of that would do something like this because it was obvious that he had the power to do this.
If he was saying anything or shouting anything, do you have anything to tell us about that?
None of my friends really saw who it was because all they knew was that they heard gunshots and they just hid as soon as possible that they could in their classrooms. But there was my other friend that said that he did see him in the hallway and he was loading his gun and all he said was run. So the kid ran for his life.
So the gunman told him to run?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Well, I mean, it's terrifying, and I'm sure you are in a way all still in shock. And I guess one of the other things I understand that must be so frightening for you is that you know the man that is in custody and you've known him since 6th grade. I mean, this is someone that, if not a close friend, was a schoolmate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've known him since 6th grade. We've been together since middle school. He wasn't really a friend. He was kind of an outlier, kid that was always wanting friends, but he could never get in a group of friends. He was always like a juvenile delinquent type of kid. I know that when he was younger, his mom died. So he moved in with his grandma, and his grandma died, so he had to go to a foster home. And he's been living there before this happened.
There was multiple times he's been he's always just been so destructive and not all there. I was never mean to him. Every time I would see him, I would say hi to him. But at the same time, the thought of me being around that kid, it's kind of scary.
We heard earlier from another source
I went through high school with him.
We heard earlier from another source that there are animal torture videos on his website, which is a bit of a giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's literally dead lizards on his Instagram page and just guns everywhere, in front of his face, just hiding his face. It was very strange.
It must
these aren't just small guns. These are machine guns.
Well,
these are weapons that are used to
Yes, it was an assault weapon that he used, wasn't it? It's the same weapon that was used at Sandy Hook and other school slayings. A full, combat weapon. I mean, we're not talking about a handgun here or a revolver, deadly as that is. We're talking about a full-on machine gun.
Yeah, it was an AR-15 that the kid used, and like she said earlier, like one of our friends saw the kid loading it up, and he said it was just like a scary-looking gun.
Jerika Duncan is at Cruz's home in Parkland, where the FBI continues to search for clues there. Jerika, good morning.
Good morning. Cruz moved into this home behind me with a friend back in November after his mother died. Now, he did live at a home nearby, and police were reportedly called there 39 times beginning in 2010 because of Cruz for calls ranging from domestic disturbance to abuse. They were signs that people knew he had troubling behavior, and they noticed it.
My sister had texted me and said it was Nikolas Cruz, and I said, oh my God, I know him.
Sarah Lowy says she knew Nikolas Cruz from his job at the Dollar Tree store.
He had this weird disposition about himself. He followed me on Instagram, and I saw all of the pictures of his guns. He had a picture of his gun up to his face.
Lowy says she regrets not doing more.
As soon as I heard what happened, immediately my mind was, I should have done something. I could have prevented this.
People who knew Cruz say he spoke about his guns and hurting animals. Shelby Spino lived 2 doors down from Cruz.
But I saw him with the gun aiming at their chickens.
President Trump tweeted on Thursday, neighbors and classmates knew he was a big problem. Must always report such instances to authorities again and again.
I'll probably never forget that name.
Ben Benight, a Mississippi bail bondsman, says he contacted the FBI in September when he noticed a comment on one of his YouTube videos that troubled him. It said, I'm going to be a professional school shooter, posted under the username Nikolas Cruz. The FBI visited Benight the next day.
Anybody that makes a public statement like that definitely needs to be investigated.
But on Thursday, the FBI said the post was a dead end because it lacked specific information about the time, location, and identity of the person who posted it.
No additional information was found to positively identify the person who posted this comment.
After the Columbine shooting in 1999, the U.S. Secret Service and Education Department published a handbook detailing how to prevent school attacks. But in that study, it was not able to actually place a trait or behavior on a student to determine if they were in fact planning a school shooting. But obviously in the case of Nikolas Cruz, a lot of people believed he had the potential.
I know the shooter. I was on the bus with the shooter. I know his bus stop. In 6th grade, he screamed racial slurs at my Chinese friend at lunch. He was saying offensive and rude and annoying things in class, and a kid got up and punched him in the face. I don't want anyone to think that this is because he's mentally unstable. I'm pretty darn sure that he's just a sociopath that cannot be charged as an insanity plea.
I actually have some friends who are in the senior class who they ran out when they heard the shooting. I think that they were on the other side of the building, like not close to the freshman building, so they actually could run out, and they were like running to Walmart. And the shooter was, when he finished whatever he was doing, he was actually running with the crowd, and he happened to be with them, and he told them, he was like, guys, like, we gotta run faster, we gotta get out of here. This is what I heard that he told my friend, and my friend was like, yeah, this is crazy, like, I can't believe someone would do this. And Nick Cruz was like, I know, but we just gotta keep moving. And they were talking to him and saying, like, he was saying, what are you guys gonna do for college? And then when they asked him, he said he was going to trade school, and he was just acting like he just didn't kill 17 people and injure people with a gun in the school, and he didn't just create a huge thing that's never gonna go away. And like after that, I know that he went to Walmart, and then he got a drink at the Subway in there, and he went to go eat at McDonald's, and it's crazy that someone could be so sick.
And then I suddenly saw the shooter about 20 feet from me, standing at the end of the hallway, actively shooting down the hallway, just a barrage of bullets. And I'm staring at him thinking, why is the police here? This is strange, because he's in full metal garb, helmet, face mask, bulletproof armor, shooting this rifle that I've never seen before. All of a sudden I see the shooter emerge from the stairwell. And I just remember looking at him and just looking at this figure that is just so menacing. His face was covered. I describe him as wearing a gas mask because that's what it looked like to me at the time. But his face was definitely covered. His head was definitely covered. I didn't see any skin. He was black from head to toe, black vest, black pants.
We've talked to say that the shooter had no friends, but you were his friend.
Correct. We went fishing. We hung out at malls and stuff, and we were all walking. We would just walk to parks and just talk and just walk around and laugh.
What kind of stuff did you talk about?
We talked about our daily lives and what we liked, and make jokes and stuff, just like any other regular teenager.
You told me he was different than your other friends, that his behavior was different. What would he talk about that made you realize he was different than your other friends?
His humor. His humor was kind of crude. It was kind of dark. And the way he just presents himself, he would talk about ISIS and guns and stuff.
Did that concern you when you heard him talking about things like that?
A little bit, yeah, but at the time, no, because he was smiling, he was cool, and we all presumed they were just jokes, but I guess within those jokes there's something lying inside of him. Again, his crude humor, he would joke around like school shootings and stuff.
What would he say about school shootings?
He would joke, because we would be looking at photos and he would joke about the photos and stuff. I really want to be there for him. I really did. I felt like I could have stopped it, and I know it wasn't my fault, but I felt like I could have stopped it. That I could have been there for him. That 17 people wouldn't have lost their lives.
If you would have stayed in touch with him.
Yes.
Because it had been a few months since you had talked to him. Obviously, it's not your fault or your responsibility, but you feel deep in your heart that you could have done something.
Yes.
Throughout that whole time, I heard constant gunshots go off in the background. When people are scared, they're shocked and they don't move. They freeze. They can't do anything. I had the thought about it, I'm like, I can't be this. I'm not gonna stay here and get killed because I stood here. So I start looking around. There is a canal, then a piece of land, then a fence, then the middle school. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna walk down that and see where it leads me. And I wear camo, and people call me the redneck, so they see, I guess what you say, the redneck walking away, they started following. So I had maybe a few hundred people following behind me.
We were coming down this way, it gets to a dead end, and I saw people along this fence stuck because there's a gate over there that was locked. And I'm just telling them, you need to hop the fence now. You need to hop the fence right now. After I hop the fence, then I realize people are stuck on top of the fence because they're too scared to jump. All I heard was gunshots going off. And I'm like, all right, I can't leave them here. I need to help. And so I helped those people off the fence. Then the gate finally opened. Then I'm like, all right, I can leave. I can go be somewhere more safe. I was talking to my dad, telling him what's going on, where I'm at. Then I told him I'm going to McDonald's that's down the street, and he goes, okay, I'll meet you there. I sat right there, not knowing previously, like 15 minutes beforehand, that the school shooter sat the booth in front of it. It was about like an hour after getting here. There was an old guy sitting across from me.
He asked a cop what the description was, and he goes, short, red-haired, freckled kid. I couldn't believe it. Truly shocked. That describes Nick to the T. And then I'm just like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way he did it. Because less than 12 hours ago, that person was living in my house. I thought I knew everything about him, but he didn't give me any warning whatsoever. And if he did, I would have told my parents.
Do you feel responsible in some way?
Yes and no. Like, I do because I took him into my house, and it's just unbelievable what he did.